So today my desire is to try to recapture something that became a tradition for us, and I don't know how long it may have been done or if ever before, where on a Wednesday evening, instead of people listening to me talk or teach or share or whatever terminology you use when a preacher is talking, instead I would just walk around with a microphone, and people who wanted to verbally express thanks for something, I would stop and hand it to them. And then everyone present could hear them share thanks. The reason that became a tradition is because I noticed that people became more emotional in that moment than normally any other time I would see them. And I became very interested and curious. Why do we get so emotional being gracious, being thankful openly? And is that actually something we're supposed to seek to accomplish and do more than just once a year? And so just as a quick lesson for you, the Bible is clear. In Psalm 92, it's written for us, it is good to give thanks. And it goes on and says, it is good to give thanks to the Lord, to sing praises to your name, Most High, and to declare your goodness in the morning and your faithfulness at night. But the most, bar none, no contest, famous verse about being thankful in the Bible is 1 Thessalonians 5:18. In fact, when I was here with you last, that's a verse we made reference to. The problem with that verse is that if you have never had a problem with what it's instructing, then you maybe live in a rock, inside a rock, under a rock. You're like Patrick Starfish in SpongeBob. You just live underneath. Why do I say that? Because at the close of the first letter Paul wrote to the Thessalonians, he just starts giving instructions on how people of faith ought to live, about how you treat one another, how we treat one another. And then he gives direct instruction to the believer. And he says, actually beginning in verse 16, rejoice always. Well, that's its own challenge, because how do I rejoice when I learn I have a terminal illness? Or how do I rejoice when I lose the only job I've ever had? Next, he says, pray without ceasing. And people hear that and think, well, how can you even live a normal life and do that? Like, you mean I got to just walk around praying all day? Like, how do you order McDonald's at the drive-thru if you're praying constantly? You know, like, hello, are you using your mobile app today? Which, by the way, I finally learned that's not a real person talking, so you don't have to answer them. Because they don't even wait for your answer. But anyway, you're like, go ahead with your order. So blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. This morning I seek lunch and sustenance that I might proclaim his glory through the calories I am about to intake. You can't do that. Is that what Paul means? A lot of people have thought in their lifetime, yes, that's what he means. He means pray. Every word out of your mouth should be prayer. Well, today is not the day that we would stop and say, no, that's the wrong way of thinking. It's a lifestyle. It's the way you live. It's the way you commune. It's the Shema of Israel. It's the Jew of all Jews in the New Testament knowing that and saying, no, your life is supposed to be exactly what he said, that as you get up in the morning and as you go to breakfast and then you go to work and then you come home from work and then you go to bed, and every moment of that day, your mind is tied into the purpose and will of God. That's praying without ceasing. But then you get to 1 Thessalonians 5:18, the Thanksgiving verse. In everything, give thanks, for this is God's will for you. In everything, give thanks. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let me suggest to you that if you have lived long enough, you would agree with me that is impossible to do. There are things that will happen to me and will happen to you that I cannot stop because I am a fallen man. I cannot stop in those moments and be like, oh, I'm so grateful for this moment. Instead, at best, I may be able to do that in hindsight. I'm able to look in the back of my life, in the rearview mirror, and say, I didn't know it at the time, but. And then the thanks comes. But how does this apply to me when I think about being thankful, or when I think about what it means to have thanks? Now, we talked before about the difference maybe between understanding thankfulness and gratitude, and we ought to have gratitude towards the Lord. That means a change in my behavior. That because of what he's done for me, I now do differently. But also we need to ask about testing our thanks. Not testing it as how thankful are you, but testing it as do I know what types of areas of my life I need to be thankful. So I promise you, not as long-winded as you might know me to be, let's get the obvious one out of the way. We're commanded to be thankful for good things. That is easy. It is easy to be thankful for good. Anybody who has enough of anything can be thankful for it. Anybody who gets a promotion, who has a positive experience or a circumstance around them that is uplifting or encouraging. We might say a life that experiences clear sailing, no storms, no trouble, no ripped sail, no broken rudder. Easy life, good things. It's easy to be thankful for that. But by the way, it's also easy to forget to be thankful at all in that. When it's real easy, I become real ignorant about how easy it actually is. For example, in the country I live in the culture I am a part of, in the place that God has planted me right along with you, right in this community, it is rare, though not impossible, rare to find someone who truly knows what hunger is. Because we have so much. Now, when Becky and I were at another church in another part of the state, we served in the youth ministry. And it became obvious to us that our ministry was to the ones that have been rejected. In other words, that's a polite way of saying, some people would look and say, your youth group is all the freaks, which is kind of how I like it. But two of them, God bless them both. Two of them literally ate out of a dumpster. Now, you wouldn't know it, but as they began to trust us, they began to share that with us. They would go to the Burger King in town and dig through the dumpster at what was thrown out each night, or occasionally. I know nothing of this. And since I know nothing of it, guess what? I don't know to be thankful that I don't experience that, you see? So when I put my thanks to the test, I have to recognize that it might be easy to be thankful for good things, but it's also difficult to stay mindful of my need for being thankful. But then we move away from the easy stuff, and then we get to being thankful for difficult things. And difficult things don't have to be huge levels of suffering. In fact, I've put a little note here and said these can be challenging things, like exercise, diet, learning a new skill, accomplishing a task that took longer than a day. Being thankful for things that took exertion. When I first, and again, I always like to preface anything about, I know you look at me and think, that guy's never exercised a day in his life. Lately, yes, COVID killed that in me, but prior to 2020, I exercised 4 days a week. I was getting my health under control, all largely because I was scared of my primary care physician. And so I ended up running in the 5K, and I don't know how many people were running at my age, but I have a third place medal somewhere in my home because I was the third fastest runner in my age bracket. Could have only been 3 people for all I know, okay, fine. Well, when I first started exercising, I hated it. Anybody in here, just out of curiosity, anybody done Couch to 5K? That's the little app you get on your phone, okay? And it says day 1. And this is all it says, day 1. Run for 30 seconds and then walk for 90 seconds. And then run for 30 seconds. On day 1, I was sitting on the curb in my neighborhood trying not to vomit because I was killing myself. Well, there's not a lot of joy there. But very famously in that is week 5, day 3. If you've ever done Couch to 5K, you will be familiar with week 5, day 3. Up until that point, all the 5 weeks you've been doing, it's like run for X amount of time, walk for X amount of time. Run for 3 minutes, walk for 60 seconds. Run for 5 minutes, walk for 30 seconds. Okay, fine. Week 5, day 3 is run for 20 minutes. Just out of nowhere, it's like, see ya. I'm the fat kid who walked. Everybody knows about Arnold Schwarzenegger and the Reagan era of exercising at school. You put your little gym clothes on and you got to walk a mile at the beginning of the year or run a mile at the beginning of the year and the end of the year to see if you got better. I walked it both times. I don't run, okay? But this thing said, run for 20 minutes. I'm not telling you I did it fast, but I did it. And when I got home, I was so expressively thankful at, Becky, you're not going to believe what I did. I hated running. Suddenly I was thankful. It was difficult, but I was thankful that I did it. I succeeded. Something happened. We can be thankful in difficult things, that just because they're a challenge doesn't mean they're bad or to be avoided. And then on some level, we know this too. We know that life isn't always going to be easy, and that as we mature, we begin to understand. And I'm thankful for having a job, even though that job is hard. I'm thankful for having a yard, even though yard maintenance isn't my favorite thing. We can get there, but then we get a little further. We test our understanding of thankfulness by asking if we're thankful for unseen things. Now, an unseen thing is something I know is there, I know it's coming, I just can't currently see it. My favorite example of this right in this moment is lunch. I know that when I walk into that gym, there will be a long line of extremely healthy and low-calorie food for me to eat. A lot of it. There's going to be turkey and ham and dressings of various styles and vegetables of every make and model. Some of them will have sugar put into them because that's what Southerners do. And others will be salty, and you can mix and match, and nobody cares. Nobody's watching. Oh, did they go back now for the 5th time? Who cares? I know that's coming, and I have been thankful for its coming for weeks. Once we get into the staff meeting and we're talking about November's calendar, and that's all the way back in October, on that calendar it says, oh, Thanksgiving meal. I'm like, yes, Jesus, this is just a taste of what salvation truly means. Do I think about the meals that take place in heaven? This is fantastic. It's unseen. I don't see it. I just know it's coming. The same is true for my full redemption. I know Jesus is coming. I don't see him coming right now. I don't see a horse in the sky with a king sitting on it, and he opens his mouth and a sword comes out and he cleaves. But I don't see any of that. I just know it's coming, and I'm grateful when the whole world looks like it's falling apart around me, when cop cars drive by more than anybody else's car in my front yard, or any sort of experience like that. I know, but something is coming. Super famous Easter sermon. Sunday's coming. Another famous sermon. Payday is coming. These ideas that there's something to come. I can't see it, but it's coming. I can be thankful for these things. And I'm called in the aspect of being thankful in everything. I'm called to be thankful for that. Well, preacher, I'm having an absolutely awful, terrible time right now, but I just got to make it to next week. Okay, but next week is coming. And you know that. You can see that. It's very real. But then there's the last one. And this is where most of us will stumble and fall and read the Word of God in everything, give thanks. This is God's will for you in Jesus Christ. We will read that and say, like, that's impossible. Because we have to be thankful also for unknown things. These are problems that we actually don't know will work out. These are experiences and situations that we can't see the end of. And God says, but I need you to express thanks in this. I need you to know that you don't know how it's going to work out, but I do. You don't know when reconciliation will be found, but I do because I already planned it. You can't see it. You don't know it, but you know me and I do. Sometimes we're very, very busy trying to figure things out. But what if we lived our life realizing maybe today is good, maybe today is bad. I won't know until later. For example, there's an old Chinese story. We might refer to it as a Chinese proverb. It's actually from a philosophy called Taoism. It starts with a T. It's where the yin-yang comes from, if you know what that is. Well, there's an old story that an old man living in his home in a Chinese province one day has one horse to his name. And he goes outside to find that his fence fell down and the horse had run away. And so everyone in his little province comes and says, oh, what an awful day, what a miserable situation. Your only horse has run away. This is terrible. And his only reply is, maybe. 2 days later, the horse that ran away returns. And it returns with a mare of unspoken beauty. It is the most beautiful, fabulous horse that anyone in this province has ever seen. And so all the people gather around like, oh, your horse didn't just come back. It came back with the most beautiful horse we've ever seen. This is a great day for you. And he replies to them, maybe. The next week, his son, his only son, begins to try to tame and train that horse and make it usable and rideable in his family. And in doing so, he is kicked by that horse and his hip is dislocated and his leg is broken. And as he lays there And everyone sees that and comes to help, but they know this young man, because of this injury, will be lame for the rest of his life. He will be very unuseful as a man and as a helper around his home. The people around the province begin to mourn for this man, and they say how terrible that this horse, this new horse that came, would do such damage to your son and thereby such damage to your family. This is an absolutely awful day. And the man replies to those people, maybe. The next day, the emperor of China comes riding through the province looking for young men to serve in his army because he's launching attacks against the enemy, and he is calling up an army of men able and capable of fighting. Because his son is injured and lame, the emperor does not call his son up. His son is passed by as others are forced to leave. And so those who remain come up to the man and they say, "Man, you sure are lucky. You're lucky that horse hurt your son, because now your son doesn't have to go out and die in battle." And the man looks at his friends and says, "Maybe." And the story goes on as long as you want it. The idea is, I don't know. I don't know. Is it good that you got a job offer to some new place yesterday? I don't know. Do you? No. We presume. We presume a lot. And one of the things that's dangerous is that we presume we know what God exactly plans, wants, and desires. And unless he tells you, which is why you need to know this book, you don't know. You seek. You ask for wisdom. You do the best you know how. In fact, if I could teach you some manner to pray where your life might have some clarity, tell God what you plan on doing, and then give him permission to change you. So, God, I'm going to go do this, and I'm going to go do that over there, and if that's not what I'm supposed to do, you stop me from doing it. If he doesn't stop you, move on. But if you set out to do that thing and suddenly that door closes right in your face, you got exactly what you asked for. Be thankful. You didn't know, but then you did. So thanks for easy things, thanks for difficult things, thanks for unseen things, but you know it's coming. And then, most importantly, thankful for unknown things. This is what it means for us to be tested in our thanks. This is how you begin to understand what Paul is saying when he instructs all of us, not just the Thessalonians, not just the citizens of Thessalonica. He's being guided by the Holy Spirit to instruct all mankind in everything, no matter what it is, give thanks. Because whatever it is, God is exercising his will in it.